Hi y'all, welcome back to my shop. Someone close to me had a friend that lost someone dear to them, and they wanted a couple of keepsake boxes to put some ashes in. So I thought I would demonstrate a couple of threaded boxes. The key on hand thread chasing is you got to use a suitable wood. You have to have some skills too, but starting off with wood, I'm using Osage Orange, which is a domestic hardwood that you wouldn't think it'd be good for thread chasing because it's got a very prominent grain, but the difference between Osage Orange and a lot of others, say ash or oak, that also has very prominent grain, is that the grain consistency has the same density, so it threads very well. Let's get started. So we're starting mounting this block about between centers. It's the wood is about 2 1/4 inches wide or square and about 6.5 inches long, which I think will make two nice boxes. So first thing we're going to do is rough turn it round and add a tenon to each end. Ride the bevel, lift till it cuts. Once I have it smoothed to a cylinder, I'm going to put a tenon on each end using my square beating and parting tool. Close, now get the other end. So I mounted in the chuck using one of the tenons on one end, and then I'm going to just part it off halfway for the 2 box blanks. And I'll let half of it roll around on the floor. Okay. Now, I'm going to look at this and decide which end needs to be the top and the bottom. It doesn't really make any difference, so I'm going to have the end that's in the chuck be the bottom, or be the lid rather, and I'm going to go ahead and mark that where I'm going to part that off. And a ratio of maybe 1 to 4. I'll part just a little bit to the left of that. Let's slow it down a little bit to about 1,000. We're finally parted off. Okay, so this is going to be the lid. So I'm going to hollow this out and decide the wall thickness and the shape of the outside lid. So I'm going to probably do it right about there. So I hollow out the lid with a 3/8 inch spindle gouge. Drill straight in a little ways. Then I'm going to sweep from the inside to the outside. Very hard wood. And let's check the measurements. I've already decided how deep, so I'm just using this to go no-go gauge. Got another 1/4 inch to go. nose scraper, conventional scraper, just to do a final sweep in there to get a smooth surface. About 1,000. I can get a little more light here. Light pressure. This is a finishing pass. I use a box scraper. It's got an angle here of less than 90 degrees to get that wall parallel, so I angle this a little bit to get this lined up with a bedway. Now to check that for square, that box scraper left me a nice rounded corner, but for this particular lid I don't want that, so I'm resorting to a negative rake, very sharp cornered scraper, so I can go in there and get a very clean corner, and I'll show you why in just a moment. Now I use a little 6-inch ruler against the base to and sight down to see if it's square, and it's going in just a little bit, so I need to put a little more emphasis on the back. And that looks perfect. Okay. Now, before I start thread chasing, I need to cut a little recess in there so I've got room to pull out the scraper before it hits the back of the wall. So I'm using a little recess tool I made out of an Allen wrench to get that back there, where the recess is going to be about just a little bit more than 1/12 of an inch, which is the thread chaser I'm going to use. Okay. Before I start chasing, I need to round over this corner here a little bit, otherwise the thread chaser is going to catch on it. So I'm using my little point tool, 3 points, DIY. Maybe about 45 degrees, maybe round it just a little bit. Now I'm also going to go ahead and, while I've got this tool in my hand, chamfer the face of this so it goes inward just a little bit, so I'll have outward contact touching when the lid comes together. Okay, and because I did that, I really need to reestablish that chamfer. Okay. I always take a little bit of sandpaper and refine my tool rest, which is soft steel. Make sure there's no nicks that's going to cause this thing to not slide smoothly. And then I usually tend to stroke it with a piece of paraffin wax I keep handy. And that'll ensure that this slides nice and easily. Okay. So I'm going to start at an angle like this, get that thread struck, and then with each successive strike I'm going to bring it around, and that recess allows me, before it hits the bottom and strips out, allows me a chance to pull this away. So I set a speed for this 12 thread per inch, this Carter & Son thread chaser, to just under 300. Keeping this flat, come in at an angle, and just do a few dry runs, and then I stroke it. I guess at the speed, and then now that I check it to see, do I get a thread? And I do have a thread starting to catch it on, so now I can start bringing it around. And instead of forcing it, I just allow it to catch the thread and pull itself in at its own speed. try to engage with the tooth, maybe the second tooth, so to allow a nice smooth run with multiple teeth cutting. I can twist it up a little bit to sometimes get a better cut. What I can't do is I can't do this or it'll change the thread pitch. See how I'm doing there? Just got some threads started, but I need to work on that a little bit. Now, once I've got threads going a little bit, I like to use a little thread lubricant, what I call Mocho juice from Mike Mocho, 10% Dawn dishwashing detergent, 90% denatured alcohol, and it just kind of lubricates the wood a little bit, stiffens the fibers and softens it at the same time. Works great on dry wood that's not oily like our domestic hardwoods. Give it just a moment to sit in there. Back this off a little bit. And we'll just continue the chase. A couple of dry runs, strike the thread. Needs to be moving when you hit the thread. Alright, see what those look like. And those are looking good. I think I need to cut a little bit deeper in the back. Let that lead tooth do the cutting. And now I want to take that ruler I was using again and kind of test that threads, and it looks like they're not deep enough on the inside, so I need to keep going on the inside a little bit. Whoop. Bring the thread chaser around just a little bit more. That's probably ought to do it. And those are looking parallel. Okay. So I've got this chamfered. I'm going to reestablish the chamfer on the edge here that'll help the box parts find each other. So I'm going to use my point tool just to round that corner again, basically. Speed up a little bit. And what I sometimes like to do is just go in about maybe a half a thread depth. And make a tiny little recess that makes it a little easier for those parts to mate up, and then go ahead and hit that inside again. Kind of a nice box refinement. Okay, so now we've pretty much got this lid done. I got a smooth enough surface with a scraper. I'm not going to bother to sand. This box is going to have a specialized purpose. It's going to be filled with ashes, so they're not going to be opening and looking at it, admiring the inside. So I've got a smooth enough surface as is. Alright, I missed a step, but before I parted this off, I should have put a tenon on here to chuck it, so I'm going to have to add that tenon. So the way I'm going to do that, of course, remove the box lid, set it aside temporarily, and then I'm going to hope this will fit inside this chuck, and I'll just grasp the outside without a tenon. Yeah, that'll fit, registered against the bottom. And now I'll go ahead and put a tenon on it, just fine. And again, to use that tenon, make that tenon, I'm using that beading and parting tool. I incline it just slightly to make sure I get a nice clean shoulder. I'm using a set of jaws that require a parallel tenon, so I examine it carefully, and it's like, nope, I need to just get it a little deeper in the back. Now here's a trick question. How many sides do I have to sharpen here? well, you got this side and this side, but you also need to stroke this side and this side, because when you come in and do this, sometimes you're actually cutting with that edge right there. So now I'm going to make the box flange to thread chase, and to determine that size, that male spigot, if you will, I'm going to measure the inside, the female recess, and then I'm going to add some dimension, just a little bit more than 2 millimeter. So I'll have just a little room for error. So it's right at 39, it looks like, so let's move it to about 41 and a half. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and use, these aren't real sharp, so they're probably not going to do real well, but I'm going to try to touch this end here to mark that. Touch this end, not that end. Yeah, these have been ground down a little bit, so they're not real sharp. So let me just estimate with a pencil and then double check that measurement. A little bit large. And that inner one is pretty close. Okay, realign my tool rest, drop it down a little bit. Use my beading and parting tool. I'm going to make this about 3/8 of an inch in length. So I have plenty of wood to thread chase. Speed up a little bit. Just chamfer it in just a bit. Now I'm just going to kind of do some trial fits to make sure it won't fit in there. And when it just fits in that little recess that I created, then I'll be about where I need to be. Now, I tend to use a thin parting tool for this. Sometimes that's the easiest way on the outside. Okay. And I thread chase before I hollow. And as before, I've got to kind of round over the corner here. Start with about 45 degrees. And just round it over a little bit. Sometimes you actually do better not rounding, but doing 45 to do that initial strike. Like I mentioned, these are 12 teeth per inch. Now I use the male cutter, again coming in at an angle. I'll back this off just a little bit to give adequate support for this whale tail here to get a little more tool on the tool rest. Okay. Get the speed up just under 300. Your preferred chasing speed may vary, but for 12 teeth per inch, just a bit under 300 works for me. Okay, dry run, dry run. I want to raise the tool rest just a little bit. I want to kind of point this down a little bit. Even though it's got a negative rake, I find it does better if it points down. Come in an angle. Examine the strike. Do a few more times. I'm going to incline the tool rest just a little bit to get a little more support for this initial strike. Now I've got a strike. Now I can bring that tool rest back around and start bringing this tool around. Chaser. Let's examine those threads. Yep, they're nicely cut clean, a good start. I've got to do further back, but let's kind of evaluate where it is on the box top. I'm suspecting they're a little large. Yep, they are. So when they're large, you can't just keep bringing the threads, keep cutting, or they'll tend to crumble. So you have to go in there with a scraper. I'm going to go ahead and use this one because it's handy. Just bring them down a little bit, but leave the threads at the very beginning so you don't have to reestablish that. And I'm going to go ahead and cut that recess in the back a little deeper. Slow the speed down again below 300. And pick up the thread again. This whale-tail design on this Carter & Son, this opening here, makes it a little easier to make that clearance before you hit the back. And now it's just multiple trial fits and adjusting those threads. Now you only need 2 or 3 male threads. This is a little too long for this recess, so I've got to take this down a little bit. So I'm going to use my point tool, speed up a little bit, and just point it down a little bit, straight. Whoop. Corner back just a little bit. I think the threads still need a little bit of work, even with those front ones shortened. Got to use a little just sanding lubricant here. Put just a little bit on these threads, and put a little bit on the male threads. Let's see if that doesn't let them fit together smoothly. Okay, I finally got a pretty good thread fit. Screw it down, but my grain match is off a little bit, so I've got to go 3/4 of a way around, which basically is 3/4 of 1/12 of an inch. So let me face this off just a little bit, very carefully, and sneak up on that grain match. Speed up a little bit. Okay, I'm within an eighth of a turn of having the grain match, so sometimes it's best to stop there, and as the threads loosen and work their way, you wind up with a perfect match. I'm going to go ahead and now use this as a screw chuck. The base is a screw chuck to finish the lid. So I'm going to bring up a little bit of tailstock support to reduce any vibration. And I've carefully measured the inside, and I'm going to bring this down to 30/2 of an inch past this, and I'll be good. So I think I want to make a little bit of a bead on the box. Here for a bead. Drop the handle, roll it over. I'm going to bring in this box into that bead, the lid. I got to get the speed up a little bit. Just slope it down from about here. A little bit more. It will hold. Okay, now from here I'm going to bring this down. extra bit. Use a D-way beading and parting tool to put a, I think this is an 1/8 of an inch bead. Drop the handle. Now I want to refine the line up to that bead on both sides. I'm going to use a small 1/2 inch skew. Just a very slight touch. Around, okay. Now this side, I'm going to use this corner. Just get it outside that bead. Okay, all that needs is a little sanding. I do just a minor bit of shaping on the outside of the box before I hollow. Mostly getting this shoulder. Okay, make a little divot for the drill. Okay, I use my 1/4 inch depth drill. I measure against the marks on the side to see how deep I need to go, and a little bit past this one. And as before, I'm going to use a 3/8 inch detail gouge to hollow. I might have to switch to a 1/2 inch. Just pivot. Okay, I've got it hollowed, got a little bit of sanding around the edge here. Now I'm going to make a jam chuck to reverse this so I can do it. Obviously with those threads, if you put it in there, you could damage those threads, so I don't want to do that. So I'm just getting a scrap spindle. Take this skew and just bring that down. Just a little bit, do a little trial fit. Nope. A little more. Okay. Just about snug. I can probably take this down another 30/2 of an inch to widen it a little bit, tighten it a little bit at the bottom. Bring up tailstock support. Better measure the inside compared to the outside. Make sure I don't make the inside bigger than the outside. Yeah, actually a little bit past that. So I'm going to bring up tailstock support. I'm going to bring that box around that corner, knowing that I need to bring this down just a little bit. I'll go ahead and do that first. And then I'll just transfer it in just a bit. I think that's about the way it's going to be. Since the jam chuck is only holding here at the throat, I'm going to put a little tape on here. I took this down a little bit so it'll be closer to the neck. And we'll just wrap that a little bit as a safety measure, keep it from flying off and heading across the shop. Always being careful to wrap that tape towards you so it won't unwrap. Just creak off that nub there. Going straight into the headstock, so it doesn't throw it off center. We should be good to go. And I like to put in just a couple of V-grooves at the bottom, very carefully. Takes care of that. Maybe hit that with some 240 grit. You guys know how much I love to teach, or I wouldn't be making these videos. So I do teach lessons in my shop. If you live in the Atlanta area, you got relatives in the Atlanta area, or you're just traveling through, check it out. Details on my webpage.